Welcome back, everybody. Today we'll talk about Intel, why everyone's favorite processor chip is not inside anymore. The company powering every computer in the world hit a rough patch. Founded 52 years ago in Silicon Valley, Intel revolutionized the semiconductor industry as we know it. Co-founder Gordon Moore, famously known for inventing the Moore's Law, where he predicted that transistor chips will double every year, making technology almost obsolete overnight. Seems like Intel has finally caught up with this theory. Right now, this company is experiencing the changing of the guards. CEOs are switching positions. CEOs have a short but powerful tenure, usually in a 6-year window. Then they have to focus on succession planning. Some CEOs aren't even lucky to be around for that long. It's a very stressful position. So Intel's current CEO, Bob Swain, will step down next month and will be replaced by VMware's current CEO, Pat Gelsinger, who will be taking over Intel. Abrupt but swift and necessary. Bob Swain didn't have a technical background. He was more of a business guy, really finance-oriented. He couldn't maintain Intel's leadership in the chip industry. Pat, on the other hand, has an engineering background. He'll help the company come back, focus more heavily on R&D, research and development. Why is this important? Because in the last several years, AMD, Apple, a lot of the competitors in the space have been building new chips, gaining market share against Intel. And as hardware transitions from the laptop to mobile, all the chips are changing. Processors, manufacturers have to keep up with the times. What's unique is that Pat has a background from VMware, which is the largest cloud provider and specializes in virtualization. So it's a really good mix between hardware, software, and the cloud. He's going to bring a whole fresh set of eyes to Intel, something they've not experienced in the past. He actually began his career at Intel, so it's very exciting to see this. He's doing a full turnaround. The company has been around for 50 years. Not many companies can say that. It's really amazing that Intel has been able to build a brand by a simple sticker on computer and PC devices. Very clean. You never see a processing chip, but you know that it powers your computer. So what really sparked this change in leadership? Last month, Dan Loebs, Third Point Hedge Fund, he wrote an investment letter to explore new options in Intel. Loeb has been a specialist in the activist world. He looks for underperforming companies that are lagging the public markets, and Intel was on top of his list. So the board needed a wake-up call. He reached out to the chairman, Omar Ishrak. He built up a $1 billion position in the company so his voice would be heard. He did something similar at Yahoo several years ago. And he emphasized the need for America to maintain leadership in the semiconductor industry. We've been lagging behind the Taiwan semiconductor industry manufacturer and Samsung. So he provided 5 different points for why Intel needs to be improved on the inside. First, it needs to think about selling its manufacturing operations and the failed acquisitions to address what he considers substantial problems. Intel has performed. Number 2, Intel has underperformed due to the manufacturing issues. Number 3, it's falling behind the Taiwan and Samsung manufacturing units and allowing fabless semiconductors like AMD and NVIDIA to gain market share at Intel's expense. Number 4, the loss of manufacturing leadership, which is why Bob Swain wasn't the best, has become an national security issue for the United States. And number 5, there's a human capital management problem. Recently, Intel lost some of its top tech guys to other firms who either retired, they've been swapped. They picked up someone major from Tesla for chip designing. He just recently retired. So there's several ways that Intel can be improved. It's a long process. I think Pat is definitely qualified to get into this position. He'll do a terrific job. And on that note, I'll actually recommend a couple books. Only the Paranoid Survive. This is a famous book written by Andy Grove. He was the third employee at Intel and the most notable CEO. His influence in the semiconductor industry is world-renowned. He's actually considered the father of OKRs, objective key results as written in John Doerr's book, Measure What Matters, who was a big investor in Google. And that OKR methodology helped Google actually become a multi-billion-dollar business. So Andy wrote 2 books. One I mentioned, Only the Paranoid Survive, and then High Output Management, one of my favorites for sure. His management style is cannot be compared to anybody else's. You'll find these 2 books on many shelves across the world in business leaders, libraries, offices. It's really well. It's easy to pick up. His short, concise ideas are definitely easy to just consume, put into action, and then go back and read what he wrote about how he learned from his mistakes. So, in fact, Ben Horowitz, the co-founder of Andreessen Horowitz, a major venture capital firm in California, wrote 2 of his best-selling books as a continuation of Andy's management techniques. Ben's 2 books, which I recommend and are probably the most recommended books in Silicon Valley, versus The Hard Thing About Hard Things, his story about building his business, turning it around and selling it for $1.6 billion, I believe. And then What You Do Is Who You Are, a book written about culture. Great books. I recommend them. He wrote them as an acknowledgement to Andy Grove, who was the most notable CEO of Intel. So hopefully this marks the turnaround and recovery for our American semiconductor industry. There's a lot we can learn from this story, a lot we can learn by following it. So keep up. Let me know what you think. It's very exciting to see this. There'll be a lot more posted about technology, finance, and economics very soon on this channel.